Last video of the day, I'm gonna talk astrology 101 because if you are like me that we're learning about astrology, this is the easy way to learn it. Okay, so the houses. We're gonna talk about the houses today. We already talked about the planets and we already talked about the zodiac signs. Um, the houses in the birth chart, it represents like a parvas and how certain placements and certain planets and certain zodiacs play a role in that house. And remember, the birth chart is everything. It's not just your moon, sun, and rising, but pretty much those are the basic ones, the most important ones. Your moon, your sun, and your rising, because that's who you present yourself to the world, how others perceive you, and how they see you, and also in your moon, of course, is how you are behind closed doors, in your internal self, your feelings, your inner child, if you want to call it like that. And then your planets is depending on those placements, that's how you're gonna come off sometimes, how you're gonna act out, how you're gonna react to certain situations. And your house is pretty much how do you behave? What is it that what drives you to act certain way in what sign in certain houses make you who you are. So let's keep going. So the first house is the body. It's how you see yourself. See, it's what people see and the impression you give. It's how you look at yourself in the mirror. That's the first house. The first house is ruled by Aries, who is ruled by Mars. So the first house is usually a very driven energy, a very fire, very outgoing energy. So whatever placement, and like I said, later on we're gonna post and make more videos on how each zodiac sign on each one of the houses, each one planet, and all that, how that it plays out, and how the person will act. And having a lot of certain energies or a lot of certain planets or a lot of zodiacs in certain houses, how the personality will be. The first house is ruled by Aries, who is ruled by Mars. The first house begins with the ascendant or the rising. The astrological constellation rising over the eastern horizon at the time the chart is cast. In the natal chart, the ascendant represents the moment you were born. This placement is also one of the most important parts of the chart, along with the sun and the moon. The first house represents your physical appearance, how your body works, and where your strengths and weaknesses lie. It is the beginning to everything. The first house is also the mask that everyone else first sees. Although the first house is the house of self, it is also the persona you project to others. It is how you relate to the world first. The first house shows your image, so how you come across to others. It is the utmost importance now and bears greatly on your success. So that's the first house. Interesting, isn't it? It's all about ourselves. It's about how you are as a person and what makes you what you are. The second house. The second house is your assets, your finances, and the things that you value. And depending on what zodiac sign you have or planets you have in this house, that's how you want to react and how you want to make that happen and how you go out in the world together. The second house is ruled by Taurus, who's ruled by Venus, the planet of love. The second house is about being grounded in the physical. It is the house of money and it's about what you own and movable goods. Ruled by Taurus, the second house is also about solid reality, richer comforts, lifestyles, and areas supports primary in the physical realm. It is also the key to your power in the world, how you feel empowered and disempowered. Second house isn't always to do with money and possessions. It could be about ownerships of talents, maintaining comfortable shelter, living up to personal values and self-esteem. It is also about what we decide to utilize or manifest in the physical realm, the desired results of which will always be quantifiable with worth, comfort and also familiar happiness. So check on your birth chart and see what's what if you have planets, check on that too. Uh, what is the zodiac sign that you have if you have it? So sorry. um, but anyway, yeah, that's the second house, and I don't want to spoil it because if I go in, I'm gonna make the video very long and very boring. So I try to, make it interesting. So the third house is your potential to learn something in your local neighborhood. The third house is about messages and how we communicate to the world. This this house is ruled by Gemini, and Gemini is the zodiac of communication and is connected to the throat chakra. So it makes sense why the third house is all about communication. And this is ruled by Mercury. This house represents neighborhoods and siblings. This house is the area of the astrological chart that reveals how we think, speak, and communicate. It signifies our needs to know and demonstrates how we put our concepts and thoughts into the world. Into words, I'm sorry. The third house is dreamy and imaginative. Also represents dexterity, softness, curiosity, and figuring out the mechanisms of what makes things work. This is the house of the mind about giving and receiving information. So this is how we process things, like how we communicate to others and how others communicate with us. The third house, the fourth house. This is the house of your home and the roots in your being and how. And sometimes I'm gonna say it later on as we talk about the fourth house. The fourth house is the house of roots, ruled by Cancer and the Moon. A lot of emotions in this house. This house governs the feelings all the way we are touchy and emotional dreams and our soul journeys. It signifies the home, family, and the earliest phase of childhood, even to the time shortly before birth when we are still on the womb. Remember how a lot of people says that a lot of traumas are not just things that happen after we're born, like not just how we've been raised, but a lot of our traumas are passed on to us when we're in the womb to our mothers. So this is the house of the mother. It is the bed within the womb. It covers that protects us from the world. This house represents nurturing, giving nourishment and safety. It symbolizes mothering and motherhood, and also the father who is able to mother and nurture his offspring. The fourth house shows the beginning of the family and holds the memory of our ancestors. It represents the putting down of roots and the foundation to everything in our lives, our heritage and tribal affiliations. In the fourth house, the self is centered and grounded, but also likes to hide away. As well as caretaking, it also represents hidden treasures and a place to retreat. So yes, it's a beautiful house. Cancers. I just made a bracelet, by the way. I'm incorporating these beautiful dangles or spacers, zodiac signs, because that's my thing, astrology. So I put it everywhere I go. People don't like me sometimes because they all people talk about astrology. I'm like, I love astrology. Why not? The fifth house. The fifth house is where you have fun, romance, and create things you are proud of. And it's the house of creativity. This house is ruled by Leo in the sun. No wonder. This is what you enjoy everything you do on a daily basis. So this house is fun. Pleasure, creativity, and children are all elements of this house. Being ingenious and in the limelight is another element. We find our childlike imaginations through storytelling and fantasy. Playing is very much what the fifth house is all about. That's why this part of the chart also rules over romance, especially the beginning stage. As children, our imaginations know no bounds and we indulge in creating performances. When as adults we dip into the field, we allow our minds and hearts to roam free and produce masterpieces. When the fifth house brings romance, we also enter into a kind of playfulness, sensual, joy that happens inside the playground of adulthood. So yeah, that is the fifth house. The sixth house, beautiful sixth house. The work, health, and dirty area of life. And guess who wrote fifth house? The zodiac sign that is so always worried about getting sick. How do I know? Yeah, this is the house of routine, ruled by Virgo. Well, my Virgo's in the house. And Mercury. This is the planet of routine in everyday life. It is not so much a dazzling place as it has to do with the ordinary. It also rules the body, and specifically your health, especially the digestive tract. This house reminds us what we should do to maintain good health, and in this diet figure is in. Anything that comes under alternative health, a various approach to strengthening the body and support of a healthy lifestyle, all falls under the category of the sixth house. The sixth house is all about duty, responsibility, and gainful employment. It shows how hard you work, how organized you are, how much you worry, and what you do on a daily 9 to 5 basis. This is why it's also looked upon as the house of the job, how you earn a living as an everyday citizen. The sixth house. So yes, the seventh house, the house of this area of life is about long-term significant partners, romantic business, or family. So this is the house of partners or partners. Oh, I'm sorry. And this is where I like people. I like to post my videos right as I record them because I hate recording to make them perfect. I'm a Virgo, and yes, I used to do that, but I realize it's a waste of time. And I prefer people to see me how I am with my mistakes, my flaws, and my accent. Because I've been told I have a strong accent. Yes, I do have a strong accent, and I'm Hispanic. So yes, my accent is very thick. So bear with me. So the seventh house is ruled by Libra and Venus. Remember that uh, Taurus and Libra share the same planet, Virgo and Gemini share Mercury. So yes, I call them the twinsies because they're very similar, even though they're different elements in different zodiacs. But they're very similar when it comes to their way they act, the way they think, the way they talk, because they share the same planets. So yes, ruled by Libra and Venus. Marriage is neither heaven or hell. It is simply purgatory. Is it? I don't know. Traditionally, it has been thought to be the house of marriage and marriage partners. And I thought this might still be the primary meaning. The other can also include friends and families and her groups, like what kind of people you make friends with. So it can mean significant others, such as co-workers. Since it's the traditional house of Libra, it governs fairness, balance, and the law. It is also the house of open enemies. The seventh house is about what kind of partnerships and what type of partners we choose. So obviously, the seventh house is the opposite. Oh, if usually it's the house that brings us and attracts the opposite, and it's very interesting because how do you know what kind of person you're gonna be attracted to? Look in yourself. What zodiac sign you have in yourself. So, for example, my rising is is Libra. So, in my seventh house, I have Aries. It's the opposite. So, I tend to attract people that are the opposite of me. Very fiery, very dreamy, very driven. I'm sorry. I tend to be like that sometimes. So it could be a little bit. type with fire can create chaos. But it's all about balancing and controlling, managing yourself and controlling my part of me. Not controlling. It's never about controlling. It's about managing and balance. So yes, whatever sign is it that you have in your first house, your seventh house is going to have the opposite. So that's what you're looking for in relationships. And there's all other elements when it comes to choosing a partner. I'm going to talk about later on more videos. Uh, if you trying to find out what kind of partners you want to choose for, and based on their birth chart, in your birth chart, you're going to be able to see where you guys match, where you got differences. Because something that I have learned, and it's very important, is that it doesn't matter what zodiac sign is. It is important because it gives you like an idea, like a preview of who they are, but it's not truly who they are because for that you need to look on their moon. But it's not all about compatibility. But I have learned myself from my own experience that the birth chart is very helpful on how you can see what you guys need and think and act the same way, and your differences you can use those to strengthen the relationship, and you can learn what the other person like and how it is, and because of that difference you can learn how to work around it, and to learn how to navigate to those waters. Having a lot of differences sometimes can be difficult, but in a relationship it's never impossible. And the more you know about a person, the more you can navigate and understand how can they be, like how can you kind of mesh and work out certain relationships that could be difficult. But it doesn't matter, if it's a Leo and you're a Virgo. It's just about the matter of how you communicate and understanding how the other person is, and respecting those differences, giving their space, and making a point, and creating a lot of healthy boundaries. Because to me, that's all the time. Healthy boundaries and communicating properly. It's the key to any successful relationship of any type. Now, moving on to the A house. This transformational area of your life is about shared resources and intense emotions. The A house is endings and beginnings, and it's ruled by Scorpio and Pluto. That's one of my favorite zodiac signs. I don't know why. Um, I always talk about that. Even though they have a bad reputation, they have a very intense energy, very, very intense energy, very magnetic energy that they attract all kinds of people towards them. Not just Taurus, Scorpios is like, wow. This is where it all goes dark and becomes mystery. In astrology, the A house represents the long dark night before light comes, where a new dawn is on its way, but you need to grapple with the darkness and the unknown a while longer. Traditionally, the A house is about sex. I can say it out loud. Death, psychic powers, control, and material things, such as money and inheritance that which belongs to other people or to yourself. But such a things you will end up owning, or at least partially. It also involves all dark, gothic things associated with it. The A house is where great transformation happens. The A house symbolizes psychic abilities in all of its veins. It suggests premonitions, visionary dreams, and seeing into the past, present, and future, but also represents communication from spirits. That's the A house, and I'm gonna try to